this is actually, if I had to be real, most of you guys are missing this, right? Which is that you haven't done anything yet. And so you want people to respect you. You want people to listen to your authority, but you can't actually answer the question, why should they? And I think if you can simply answer that question, which is why should I listen to you, in your content and remind people on a regular basis of whatever that aspirational outcome is, they're more likely to listen. Now, Warren Buffett gives very simple personal finance advice to people. Now, are there other people who are qualified to give personal finance advice and maybe even be better at it? I'll bet you Dave Ramsey's better at giving personal finance advice than Warren Buffett. Why? Because it's his whole business. So he knows what people struggle with probably more intimately than Warren Buffett does. But we will still listen to Warren Buffett because he's $100 billion. And so we figure if it works to get to $100 billion, I'm sure he can help me save up to pay my mortgage off. This is an important link that I'm trying to make here. North Face, if we know that their jackets can have someone stay warm at the top of Everest, then we can reasonably state that it'll keep us warm on our way to work while we're going from the house to the car and then the car to the place that we're eating or whatever, right? And so these aspirational outcomes basically serve as risk mitigation for your potential audience and customers. If it worked at this super extreme level, it'll probably work for me at my not nearly as extreme level. So that's from the outcome perspective. And I think many of you need to double down on that part, which is what can you say that no one else can say? What can you show that no one else can show? These are the aspirational outcomes that people will then listen to your very basic content about. I can make content about personal finance because people are like, he's rich. Okay, he can probably help me save some money. But I only get to say this very basic content sometimes because of the authority I have from this big outcome. And so a lot of people spend too much time, in my opinion, trying to work around facts. Like instead of trying to warp reality and lie or posture or misrepresent yourself, just state the facts and tell the truth. And if the truth and the facts aren't that compelling, change the truth and the facts, meaning change reality. Don't warp it, change it. Make reality different and then state the facts and tell the truth about this new, much better reality. And I'll give you a story that I had. So I don't think you'd mind me sharing this. So I was talking to Mr. Beast about this concept. And I was like, yeah, I know we need to work on our headlines. They're a little bit too clickbaity. And I remember he stopped and he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you should absolutely have clickbait headlines. He's like, they should just be true, which is that they should be baiting the click, but then when the person gets in, it's exactly what they thought it was going to be. The deception comes from when someone thinks it's something and it ends up being something different. That's where you have the conflict, right? And I think a lot of you do this. And part of the problem is when you make these outlandish claims, you actually decrease the audience's trust of you every time you make a claim and then you don't support it. So then why should they believe you the 27th time you have an outlandish headline for a short or a long that you make in your content when the other 26 times they didn't believe you because as soon as they clicked, they found out you were lying, right? Or fudging. Either way, not good. Now, if you're like, well, Alex, I don't have an aspirational outcome. Well, big thing is almost everyone has an aspirational outcome. You just need to get narrower on it. All right, so let me explain, and then I'll explain the second half, which is aspirational effort. But let's just focus on outcomes right now. So aspirational outcomes, you can be like, I am the fastest reader in all of Nevada in the second story of the acquisition.com building on the left wing. I'm probably the fastest reader. Okay, that's a world champ thing. So all we have to do is get narrower or more specific with our outcomes to make them more compelling. So we're still stating the facts and telling the truth. We're just leaning into our advantages, right? So if you happen to be, like I think Layla and I together are probably more unique than either of us apart, right? Otherwise, I'm just a 35-year-old white guy, right? And so I have basically nothing going for me in terms of being unique. There's plenty of 35-year-old rich white guys. But how many of them work with their wives? Okay. How many of them are Persian? Probably fewer. How many of them are first generation? Probably fewer. How many of them were self-made? Probably fewer. How many of them came from one space and did it in multiple spaces, in physical products and software and services? How many of them had brick and mortar experience? Not many, right? And so I can say things that no one else can say by just narrowing down and basically adding more color or nuance to the aspirational outcomes. You guys following along with this? Give me a little thumbsies, a onesie. Yeah, yeah, first on. Congratulations. Okay. Now, what many of you will be relegated to doing is, first off, you need to talk about whatever that aspirational outcome is. And again, you want to be, you can still be mayor of a very small town. You just need to make the town smaller. So instead of trying to say that you make the best business content in the world, you're not going to do it because no one's going to believe you, right? You got to be the best business guy in the world or top 100, whatever, to make that kind of stuff. Now, most of the guys who aren't top business guys in the world, this is B2B, obviously, they're just actually independently famous because purely, and this is what I'm trying to, I'm sure this is what I'm trying to like get across here. They are famous because of the outcome. Bezos is famous not because of his content. His content is famous because of what he's done. Jensen Huang is not famous because of his content and his clips. He's famous because of what he's done outside of social media, inside of the real world. Then people want to listen to you. And so the outcomes still matter. I don't care what other people tell you. The outcomes matter. They are the proof. They are the pudding. And so you have to double down on just niching down, just being narrower about what you can be exceptional at. Everyone can. It's just most people try to claim they're exceptional at too broad of a scope, and it makes it unbelievable. Now, the more successful you become in whatever your particular endeavor is, the more general your fiefdom, your kingdom that you're in charge of can be. And so if you look at my evolution from like local fitness celebrity, or rather local fitness authority, owned a gym, right? To then gym authority, okay? To a national education authority, right? To probably now international business, right? These are things that evolved in time, and they are step functions, or sorry, they're stair steps. One has to come before the next. They are contingencies. One cannot happen without the other. And so if you're going to come into whatever space you're getting into, and you want to make content and be seen or perceived as an authority, the biggest way of doing that is accomplishing something. And then the next one, and this is now we can transition to aspirational effort, is going to be demonstration of expertise. All right. So again, what we're trying to do, like, what is the function of authority? Let's think about this for a second. What is the function of authority? The function of authority is to decrease the amount of effort that someone needs to think about before they make a decision. So if I have a doctor who I'm listening to and they tell me to do something, I can take it as fact because they're an authority. I will assume that I'm not going to, now I don't recommend doing that, but this is how people think. And so I'm going to not go through all the work of 8 years of education or whatever it is and the subspecialty in order to figure out what to do. Instead, I'm going to listen to an authority. So it's basically just a little click-word brain hijack of, oh, I don't need to think anymore, which, by the way, you totally should think. You should still think about what Warren Buffett says and say, do I believe what he says? Does it really apply to me? But most people won't. And we're talking about making money, so we don't fight with reality. Okay? Now, if we want that, like, wouldn't it be nice if everyone just immediately did what you said? That would increase people's compliance with your requests. This means that you'll be more persuasive. It means a higher percentage of people do what you say, which is good. It tends to be very functional for making money. Now, if we want to have authority, we can do the big thing. We can go build Berkshire Hathaway, right? Or we can demonstrate it by how in-depth we understand a topic. Now, that can be demonstrated without as much. It would make sense, though, that if you're very good at something that you would have some aspirational outcome, but it does serve as a proxy for expertise. You are obviously pretty good at this. Have you ever heard somebody like get really, I'm sure there's somebody you know, or maybe it's you, like if you get talking about some specific topic, people are like, geez, okay, I get it. Because at that point, they literally have told you, I think you're an authority. You can just tell me what you think, bottom line. They've literally elevated you within that tiny domain that you just demonstrated authority in or expertise in, that they will listen to what you say. So then around aspirational effort can be the inputs you do. So let me explain this. So you have the expertise that you can demonstrate. Now, you want to demonstrate that expertise because it also serves as an approximation of the results or experience that someone would get after they buy your products. So people might read my book and be like, wow, that was a demonstration of expertise. I'll bet this guy can help me with my offers or whatever, right? And so then they would, they would come into my rabbit hole, and then maybe we'd invest in them or whatever, right? But that's the idea. Now, if that book on offers was mediocre, then they might have a much lower likelihood of thinking that whatever I could do could help them, because they're like, oh, maybe a lot of stuff was obvious. And this is the second big problem, is that many of your content is obvious. Like if you had, here's 3 ways to save money on groceries, if I can immediately guess what they are without hearing from you, then they're not going to be interesting, they're not going to be unique, and they don't show nuance. All right. What makes content interesting is that someone can't guess what you're going to say. And if you're going to use lists, steps, or stories, you want to begin with the thing that is contrary to what they expect, which doesn't mean that you have to subvert the audience or like deceive them, but it should be something that they didn't expect you to say, which then should still be valuable, which makes it net new information. And one of the easiest ways to make net new information is to go deeper, not broader. So basically, the broader you go, the more it will rely on your aspirational outcome that you have, that people will then take what you say as fact or truth. If you don't have that, the deeper you will need to go with your content so that people believe that you have expertise. If you look at some of I specifically make deep videos and wide videos on purpose. And I will tell you the nirvana between the two, which this is a side quest bonus for everyone who's listening, is that you can have videos that are both deep and wide. So let me explain this. So a wide video, by my definition, only serves novices or beginners in a particular field. A deep video only serves advanced people within a particular domain or field. Now, a deep and wide video provides value to both. More difficult. Now, if I talk about allocation of resources and strategy, that is something that will likely benefit someone who's a beginner because they have resources and they need to allocate them, the same way who someone who's advanced is. If I talk about talent, that'd be something that someone who's a beginner and advanced would need to navigate. Now, if I talk about scaling from 10 million a year in ad spend to 100 million a year in ad spend, that for sure will only apply to an advanced person. It is.
Look at your bank account. Now look at mine. Now look at your bank account. Now back to mine. Sadly, it doesn't look like mine, but it could if you joined Skool. Come with me. Where are you? You're at a party, but not just any party, your party, and you get to decide who's invited. You can come in, my dear. You cannot. Give me your money. And because it's your party, it can be free or it can be paid. It's up to you. And you're talking about whatever you want to talk about because it's your party. Learning and having fun. But don't believe me, look at these numbers. This is the real leaderboard from last month. And sure, I could talk about Bill, who's making $62,000 a month, helping people bookkeep better. Or Jamie, helping women invest, making $41,000 a month. But what about the average school community? Well, the average paid community makes $1,360 per month. How about them apples? What's that? The ticket to the thing that you've always wanted to go to. My headquarters here in Vegas. Become one of the top 10 communities and you can fly out. Look, over there. The ticket is now a torch. No, it's an engagement ring to the business of your dreams so that you can marry it forever. Because 1 out of 2 businesses on Skool create money online. Anything is possible on Skool. Click the link to start for free.